You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Wait, so you're telling me the Leafs were 6-5-2 to start last year through 13 games as well? Wow, what could that mean for this current iteration of the franchise? It's Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take. What's going on, Rosie?
What is going on? A lot of different takes on the Toronto Maple Leafs this morning, isn't there?
There are. Before you get to your skies falling take, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Arkells concert on Saturday.
Yeah, it was good. Max left us great seats, and they put on a good show. Lots of tunes from those guys. I tell you, when we talked to him, and he's like, it's not a rock and roll lifestyle. I do a lot to prepare for my shows and all the rest of it, and I can see why. He's going full tilt the whole time and sweating like crazy. And I was like, dude, I wonder how many calories this guy's burning in one day. But they put on a good show. He's moving like crazy, super into it. So yeah, it was good. It was a good evening in the big city.
Rick Commander writes in, good God, that's a horrible mustache. Yes. Last week I came on this show. I said I wasn't going to do Movember. Quite frankly, I got bored on a Sunday night, and Eureka, I got the muzzy going, buddy. Here we go.
I was gonna say you're kind of quiet when we were talking about the Movember stuff, considering your handle is the Golden Muzzy, but there she is in all its glory.
All her glory, she is back. The mustache is back, and there's a lot of Maple Leafs talk to come on today's show. First and foremost, did you have a chance to see that recreation of the vintage Matt Sundin, Vince Carter picture, man? I thought that was so cool, man. It brought back memories of my childhood, quite frankly.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat they did the pick for sure. Carter looks good. I don't know if it's like mural worthy having a 50-some-year-old pasty white guy in an NBA jersey, if that's like going to be on the side of any buildings anytime soon. But neat they're in the same city at the same time and could recreate that old one. I've never seen that picture, to be honest. I wasn't in Toronto during the time, but I do remember Vince Carter all right. And it's kind of cool they hung his number in the rafters.
Did you catch that jersey retirement over the weekend? The guy was weeping, man, and it brought back memories, good and bad, of the state of the Raptors in the Vince Carter era. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was quite the ceremony. He was very animated during it, and obviously an emotional night for him. So good on him. It was a little different than most of them, I thought, just the way he did it, but that's not a bad thing. He was into it.
I used to call him Vince Carter back in the day. So I should preface by saying, as far as I know, the biggest celebrity to have me blocked on X right now is Vince Carter, for reasons unknown, by the way.
What?
But I was the biggest Vince Carter fan. I had multiple jerseys, and I tracked him to New Jersey. I got his jersey when he was a New Jersey Net. I was pumped. But yeah, for some reason, he had me blocked. And I could just, it was kind of cool to see the emotion come out of him, right? I think anytime you make decisions in life, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And we're always going to have regrets. Like, Carter didn't come out and say he had regrets, but I'm sure he probably would have wanted to handle the last couple of years a bit differently than it went down. And the fact that, he pretty much forced his way out of town here.
No regrets, man. No regrets. I don't know the whole saga. I wasn't a big basketball guy growing up. I knew of the Raptors and liked them just because they were the Canadian team. Obviously, Vancouver Grizzlies for a little while, but one guy I did know was Vince Carter. I remember that slam dunk championship, and I don't know all the details of how it went down, but yeah, when you become a guy of his age and you got your family and everything, and you're looking back on basically your life's work, it's an emotional thing. And yeah, I don't know if he has regrets or not, but obviously the past is the past, and they hung his banner in the rafters, and that obviously means you did something right while you were here.
Correct. Dinner Bells writes in, he should draw a stash on Rosie's photo. So people want mustache in the photo behind. A lot of people have been picking up that Easter egg the last little while. I got a picture of Rosie in my background here.
I know. Let's get the big handlebars if you're going to do it. I've never been able to grow stuff like you do, so let's see what she looks like.
We'll grow her out through the month of November and see how she looks for sure. A big week for the Maple Leafs, a 4-game homestand coming up. Before we get going here, I love the beginning part of our podcast for a variety of reasons, but it's almost like an exercise, like a light jog. Now, Rosie, you're my moral compass on this podcast, so I wanted to bring something to light. So on Friday, I went to King Street West in Toronto, right? So I got an Uber with one of my buddies, Thomas, who is a big avid fan of this podcast. We ripped down. And for anybody who frequents King West, they all know there's a spot on King West you can't drive on now anymore. It's like only for pedestrians and streetcar. Anyways, for some reason, my buddy talked in the Uber driver into driving there. And naturally, the police were there and pulled us over. Was it a bad look on my part to just hop out of that Uber because we were by the bar and not wait for the cop to settle anything going on? Because the cop comes over, license and registration, and me and my buddy were just in the back seat. How would you play that?
No, smell you later. I got nothing to do with the driving. I paid you to get me from A to B, whatever. Like if the thing ran out of gas, do you got to go and run and grab a jerry can? No, you paid for your ride. You're at your destination. However he wants to do it is up to him. And what would it benefit you to stick around and talk to the cop? You'd just be annoying. Get the hell out of there. Let him deal with the cop.
I felt really bad, and it was a female. I don't like, she didn't speak very good English. I felt bad because my buddy talked her into taking this turn. It was a shortcut, and I think
Oh.
she's like, "Well, there's signs everywhere," and I'm like, "I get that, but I feel like a ticket was coming." But as that ticket was coming, I got out of that Uber and headed for the bar, man. So I'm
Oh.
happier on my side on that front because I sort of felt bad after the fact.
But you kind of left out some pertinent information about you kind of forcing this poor girl to go down the wrong way.
I
But
didn't do it. My buddy did it. I knew what was going to happen because I've
no,
been down
that's
that
life.
road.
That's life. If she could probably sweet talk her way out of it. Maybe you said she didn't speak that good English. I don't know. Maybe you had some mercy on her and told her to spin it around and get on going.
Well, I appreciate you, man. You're my moral compass on this podcast. Brad Hopper Shea writes in, I love how you have her nickname in your handle. The Golden Muzzy, the 70s porn star. So people are, I guess they're liking the stash so far.
I guess you take a lot of heat on this pod, so it's a little bit of a lighter stash too. Is there some brown in there? I thought you're an all black hair kind of guy.
I'm waiting for the first person to say, oh, you have 3 eyebrows now, because that's coming undoubtedly.
Yeah, you do look like you kind of have 3 mustaches on your face. That's kind of funny.
Actually, exactly. See, now I pointed it out for you. But as mentioned, Rosie, lots coming on today's pod. Even before coming on, you started to get a bit heated. I said, wait for the podcast. So we're going to break this all down. But first, I must prompt you all for your super chats. Get those in. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to bring to light here. Please do so right now at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video is here, the exclusive home for the NHL on Monday nights in Canada. Just a 2-game card in the NHL tonight, one of which will be taking place on Prime. Sheldon Keefe's Devils are in Edmonton to tangle with the Oilers. Don't forget, you can watch Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video at no added cost through your membership. Just check out the sports section when you're inside the app. Additionally, if you currently don't have a Prime membership, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. Additionally, students are able to sign up for a 6-month free trial at amazon.ca/Amazon Prime. Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's on Monday. It's on Prime. And here I am on a Monday wishing every Maple Leafs game was on Prime on a Monday, Rosie.
Do ya? Yeah, they seem to be all right so far. I mean, they play well on the Monday nighters on Prime, and I don't know. As what are we, 13 games in? It's been pretty ho hum, man. Same record as last year, but different issues going on, if you ask me.
Where do you want to start with this? Because I think there was a lot to dissect from the weekend. I don't know if you want to go in chronological order, starting with the game on Saturday. I'll let you pick this time.
I mean, yeah, I want to get into the details. It's a lack of consistency compounded by a lack of scoring. And I mean, if you were to say in the summertime that, hey, we are going to have a really nice look as far as our defensive capabilities, and in between the pipes, our goaltender is going to be standout right now at this point in the season, you would say, oh my goodness, this team is going to be a force to be dealt with. But they are so dry on the offense that it is. I mean, what are you going to do if you can't score any goals? And their abysmal power play has now crept into their 5-on-5. And hey, these guys are in a slump. It's no secret. These guys are slumping. It does happen. It is not the end of the world, and they're doing what they can to rectify it. But right now, it's just, I mean, when it's good, it's good. That's the only saving grace I can say right now is when they access their good, it's quite good and it looks very well rounded, more so than it has in the past. And they're just trying to channel that more and more. And I think it's going to be a lot easier if they can get themselves out of this slump. And we're hoping that's all it is, because there's no other reason or rationale on why this scoring is down so much and why their power play is so lost. You got to chalk it up to a slump, and all you can do is play out of those, and they don't last forever. So I need people to keep that in mind.
For sure. They look stuck in the mud a bit. Having said that, I am a true proponent of time will fix this, in the fact that I think I mean, you can speak to this. You played in this league. They're installing a new system with Craig Berube, new ideologies, a new way of playing the game. I think that's going to take some time. Having said that, I think we're still seeing some of the issues from the past. Their ugly heads are right there, and that concerns me. But how much do you think this is about Craig Berube's system and guys not wanting to screw it up early on?
Well, I do want to say one thing. There's a slight sentiment, call it on Twitter amongst fans, Leafs Nation, that's starting to kind of rear its head, and that's Craig Berube is stifling the creativity and therefore the offense of this group. And I'm going to go on record right now on saying that is complete BS. There is nothing about the Craig Berube system that is taking offense away from these players. This system allows you to be in the offensive zone more, and it limits turnovers, and it limits odd man rushes, and it's just simply making those smarter decisions with those 50-50 pucks. And that means you get the puck behind them and you go chase it down fine. But as far as what happens in the offensive zone and how those guys, a la Austin Matthews and the like, are going to be able to score goals, Craig Berube has not hindered them one single bit. And I don't like that sentiment coming up. It's far too easy. These guys didn't get it done under Babcock. They didn't get undone under Keefe. This is not a Craig Berube problem. But you could say, okay, maybe mentally these guys are focusing quite a bit on what needs to be done and the changes that need to be made. And that's kind of making it difficult for them to find their game. Fine, you could chalk it up to that. But as far as this being the wrong coach and this being the wrong system, I think that's a ridiculous take at this point in the season.
Me too. I mean, let's face it, they've played 13 games. I think if this Leafs team looks the same way and on January 15th, I think there's some major league concerns. And I think at that point, it's a player personnel issue, which we all think is the issue anyways, right? And that's why I think they got some pretty considerable big decisions coming up with the likes of Mitch Marner and John Tavares and others. And maybe that waits for the offseason. But I'm willing to give this the benefit of the doubt. I know this city is good and bad with every waking loss and every waking victory, but I like to play it out over time, and I think it's going to be more of a process. I know it's kind of crappy to say that because it's been a mixed bag early on, but that's sort of the way I view it right now.
Yeah, in the summertime, we said, hey, don't freak out if these guys aren't lighting the world on fire the first 3-4 weeks of the season. But this is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they do have a big following, and they are passionate, and they are frustrated. So, of course, they have this record, and people are going nuts and wanting to burn it down, all kinds of different takes. Have a little bit of patience. Again, this is a slump, an offensive slump. They don't last forever. The only thing you can do is continue on and play your way through it. And the people who are saying, oh, look at the shots they're taking now and they're stifling the creativity. No, everyone and their dog knows that when you're having problems offensively, you simplify and you get more pucks on net and just create chances and try to get those mucky, grindy ones that aren't that they're the only way you can get them when you're going through those tough times. So I can't stand the take that this team needs to go back to looping and shooting and drop passing and stuff. Completely wrong. They happen to be going through a tough time. It starts with the power play. That existed very much so in the playoffs of last year. It has continued onto this season. Okay, that needs to change. I'm sure they're working on it. They're making changes. They're trying to simplify. You can tell they're trying to have a shoot more mentality. These players simply have to play their way through this. Come talk to me in a couple of weeks and we'll take it from there. But as of right now, the sky's not falling. These guys are in a bit of a slump. It happens to everybody. There just happens to be a magnifying glass on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, for me, it's the ebbs and flows of an NHL regular season. I mean, this team is way too talented. You look at the firepower they have offensively, that they're not going to keep scoring 1 or 2 goals a game. I mean, it's happened in previous seasons, and they find a way to bust through. And there's no doubt in my mind, Rosie, they're going to go through a streak where every night it's 4, 5, 6 goals. But I do think it's a team in a bit of a funk right now. I wouldn't call it an identity crisis. I still think early on they're looking for that identity. They're looking for that consistency. But the biggest positive I can gain is that there's been multiple efforts, specifically in the first 5 or 6 games of the season, where we got a pretty good indication, pretty good hint of what this team is capable of. Like, if we hadn't seen anything through 13 games, I would be alarmed. But the fact that we've seen it, I'm okay with it right now.
Yeah, agreed. And I'd also be alarmed if our defense were absolutely garbage. We couldn't get the puck to the forwards. Our goaltender couldn't make a save, and we had no system or structure and no accountability, and there was just nothing happening. Way bigger problems than if you seem to have a pretty well rounded team. When you're playing your best, you are scary good, and you just happen to be in a dry spell to kind of start the season off. Austin Matthews isn't going to stay at this pace for very long. You're going to get some supporting cast goals. You're going to get some power play goals. How that happens, what they do to change it, I mean, at this point, you could try anything and it wouldn't be a bad move. But I think that the problems they do have right now, I can live with because I don't think they're permanent problems.
Rosie, I want to get to Austin Matthews. It seems like once a year we have this conversation. What's wrong with Austin Matthews? But I think it's time to have that convo, man. He's not shooting the puck. We'll get into the power play for sure. They're 4 for 40. They scored over the weekend. Congratulations to them. But he is not shooting the puck. And when he does, very uncharacteristically, he is missing. He is one of the best snipers in the world, period. And it seemed like every time he shot that puck last year would go in. For some reason, he keeps missing the net. What are you seeing from Matthews right now?
Yeah, he just doesn't have that dynamic playmaking ability or finishing ability right now. He's just not finding it in the sweet spots that he wants. When he gets it, it doesn't seem to be clean. If he does get it clean, maybe he kind of double pumps it a bit, second guesses himself. And it's just, he's just not feeling it. He's not in the slot right now. I'm not going to act like I know what it feels like to be Austin Matthews when he's in his wheelhouse, because not very many people even do. But again, yes, it's a piece of that puzzle. They're in a slump collectively. No one is able to suck them out of it. No one's able to say, "Hey, I got this," while so and so is having a couple off nights. They're all kind of ho hum, and no one's clicking. No one's finding each other, and that starts to kind of reverberate throughout the lines, throughout the units, throughout the whole top six. It happens, and honestly, keeping your confidence, not getting frustrated, not trying to reinvent the wheel, not trying to do anything fancy and spectacular to get yourself out of it. You're going to have to play yourself out. And it's going to be, like I said earlier, simplify the game, get the pucks on net when you have any sort of a chance, get bodies around the net, get that greasy rebound, get one to go in off your ass. Just keep playing your way through that. It's not like this is going to be a permanent problem with Austin Matthews. But yeah, he flies under the radar sometimes when he's not playing his best. Why? Because he had 69 rips last year, and he has earned a little bit of a grace period when he's not pumping it in at that rate. And I promise you, there's nobody that wants to get on track more than Austin Matthews, and there's no one that's trying harder to get on track than Austin Matthews. So he gets that pass. But I mean, it's no secret. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He does not look like a game changer out there so far. He doesn't look like himself or what he's capable of, and he needs to find ways to be effective, no question.
It's like once a game or twice a game, he can't even corral a pass. Like he just seems
Yeah.
off. And I think that
Mhm.
speaks for the entire team right now. I think when you're a guy like Matthews, it's almost a detriment that you condition the fan base to score every time you shoot the puck. Like that's pretty much what's happened here. Like I'm not kidding. I mean, 69 goals is so difficult to do. It's like the first time in like 30 years that you almost get carried away and think that he's going to score every time out. And it just shows you how good things had to go last year to almost get 70 goals. Like, think about that. You play 82 games, he scored 69 times. Having said that, this guy's way too damn good that at some point in time he's going to bust loose. He's going to rip it up. I just have that feeling that he's very, very close to doing that too.
Yeah, there's going to be that game where they just open it up and they score 7 goals, and one of the guys has just a monstrous night, and everything goes right. And all of a sudden, there's a different energy around the locker room, around the line mates, around the bench, and that's just how it happens. And I'm waiting for that. Is it going to happen next game? Is it going to be 4 more games? How long is this darkness going to be? No one's to say. But I know that they're doing the right things on the other side of the puck that is keeping them in games. That's huge. And yeah, there might be a mental bit of a reset going on where you're thinking about other things. Maybe they're not used to playing for Craig Berube, and maybe they're not used to not worrying about anything. Those are all fine and dandy. And you know what? If you go through this growing pain in October and early November in order to start playing the right way, and everyone who follows this team knows what the right way looks like and what the wrong way looks like, and how much success you're going to have, especially when it matters, when you're playing certain styles of hockey, which this team's trying to get away from. And that's what Craig Berube is implementing it. And you can see it. It's not supposed to take away from the offense in any way, shape, or form. but there's some growing pains going on right now. If you want to chalk it up to the new system, go ahead. I don't know if that's the problem. They don't even know if that's the problem. But as they get more comfortable and start to hit their stride, and I think they're going to have a breakout game here where maybe it's Austin Matthews has 3 goals and 2 apples and won the game on his own accord. All of a sudden, that thing seems to be break the levee, monkeys off the back. That's how you get out of these things. But it's no special magic potion that they're not doing that no one's thought of. It's just keep playing the game, stick to the basics, keep it simple, get pucks on net. It's going to come.
I saw a really good picture over the weekend of Austin Matthews from the Montreal Bubble series in a scrum and Austin Matthews on Saturday night in St. Louis, where I don't know how he got the extra 2, but he disposed of Ryan Suter with a cross check, which I absolutely love. Like I love my star player being engaged physically, and I love the fact that he stuck up for his teammate Mitch Marner too. That was great.
For sure it was. And Berube echoed that sentiment too, saying, I got no problem with that. And you could almost see it on his face. It was like he saw it happen, and then it was like, oh, Captain Berube, I got to do something here. And he feeds the guy a shot. That's all you got to do. Whether it's his first inclination or not is irrelevant. He understands, oh, there's things that should be happening with the team. And that's just a small step in taking it. If it costs you 2 minutes on the PK, great. But yeah, Suter was out there playing like Darian Hatch or Scott Stevens out there. I was like, what is this guy doing? And it's nice that when it happened, he just absolutely train tracked Marner. My God. But great to see Austin Matthews come in there. See, you don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to become a heavyweight scrapper or get into a huge tilt. Go give a guy a shot right in the ribs, make it hurt, take your 2, make it count, and the boys will kill those ones off all day.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I was loving you on Twitter last night. That rat bastard Hartman, Ryan Hartman was just all over the. He was playing his role, man.
I know he was. He's effective. I like those players. I hate it when they're playing against me or the team I'm rooting for. But he definitely seemed to be everywhere. I don't know. Ryan Reaves conversation, is that due? Is it time for that or what?
We're getting there, dude. I don't know. The numbers, the last time I checked, and somebody correct me in the chat, I think the Leafs are 3-4-1 with Ryan Reaves in the lineup, something like that.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock into that. He's not the reason they're going to win or lose games, but you're getting a lot of opportunity in the lineup. You need to be able to contribute in certain ways, and he's out there kind of buzzing, and they have some ozone shifts, and it's not like he's terrible or anything like that, but like when you have the ability to be like, you're untouchable out there, there's no one that's going to do anything about you. I want to see him finish every bloody hit. I want to see him getting in the face of absolutely everyone. Don't take penalties. It's an art. It's tough. He's been around long enough. He knows what's a penalty and what's not. Keep your hands down, get in people's faces, make them just hate playing you. Hell, you might draw penalties. Some guy might not like you just hit the brakes right in front of your goalie and got in the D-man's face. Maybe you get a face wash or a shot. There's your power play. Maybe that's the one that breaks this thing loose. You got to be more effective. And when they got big boys out there and there's guys like Hartman taking liberties and playing like Suter was, and like, it's kind of like, don't they have to answer for that a little bit? And I'd like to see Revo kind of bump up his role. And I don't have to tell him how to play that role. He's been doing it forever. He knows it, but it seems like, he's kind of been a little bit complacent in so far this whole season. I'd like to see him step up the game a little bit more and realize that, hey, I can be effective in a lot of different ways. And if I'm going to be in this lineup and take the minutes that I get, you better be going balls out, making every one of them count.
It really is strange. Like, he hasn't fought, right? He hasn't been in a fight this year. And then you even look at like Saturday, it got a bit chippy in that game. And it's like McCabe got pummeled by Schenner. I'd love to know the background of that fight. And then Buchnevich gave it to Holmberg. But like, where's Ryan Reaves is my question.
Yeah, and I mean, I look back at other games like the Jack guys and the Rempes and stuff where it's if this team is in a funk and they are kind of struggling and it is inconsistent, and you come out, say, the Saturday game with your second period effort, and it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what is happening? This game is falling off the rails. Go out there and stir something up, challenge a guy, challenge their whole bench, like make them feel that, nah, we have no answer for this. Make them go, oh God, don't look at me. Make them have that feeling, and it's worth something, right? And say you do get in a scrap and with one of those big boys, it can invigorate a bench. It can liven things up. You hit the reset button on the momentum and away you go. And it's up to your team to take control of that new momentum that's up for grabs. And he doesn't seem to really be trying too hard to do that. I'm not sure why that is, but I definitely have seen some opportunities where it would have been beneficial for the Toronto Maple Leafs to have Ryan Reaves doing his thing, and it's kind of been absent.
It's very Jay Rosehill. Challenge their entire bench.
Why not? Fucking these guys are running around. They have no problem being chippy. Hartman, Suter's out there playing like he's trying to make a team out of camp, being totally physical, totally chippy. Sometimes he's getting away like a wily old veteran. He'll come in and act like he's playing the puck, and I just seen big chops across the wrists and stuff. He gets away with it, steamrolls Marner. He's lipping other guys off. You shouldn't be doing that with Ryan Reaves without him getting into your ear, challenging you, embarrassing you, make the guy cower, make the whole building know that this guy just backed down from me. That's what I thought. Keep your stick to yourself. Go back on about your business on your shift. But he's not doing any of that. And it's again, it's not, you should have 4 fights by now. I'm not saying that. It's just a mentality and a presence that you bring by being in the lineup that I want to see every night. And I haven't really seen it much at all this season, to be honest.
And it almost feels like the Leafs are like due for a game where it's like they just erupt physically and there's multiple fights and they prove a point that like we're playing for keeps this season. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it seems like it's a ticking time bomb. We saw it a bit over the weekend with St. Louis. Certainly saw the feisty edge on Sunday. It feels like they're ready to erupt physically. Like just I think it's almost like a statement game is needed physically where there's a couple scraps and you're like, crap, this team's legit.
Old school bench clearing
Yeah.
brawl, not going to happen. Maybe a bit of a line brawl, probably not going to happen. But I mean, I have seen, like
Am
you
I
see,
dreaming?
this weekend, there's multiple scrums. Benoit's coming into Marner's defense, and guys are scrapping and squaring off, and McCabe's handling this, and Matthews is going after someone. Like it's kind of there, and it's nice that they're not. That's not the narrative. Do you remember when then
Yeah.
teams used to literally do that to them, and they would cower? They would physically cower
True.
and hunch over and look down at their feet and turn their head as they're eating shots. It's pathetic. We don't have that anymore. They've addressed that issue. Tree Living's addressed that issues. Like OEL's playing big. McCabe's back there. Benoit's back there. Tanev can hit and block shots and get in there. It's not a problem anymore. And you got Revo, and I want to see more of it. Yeah, and it starts with Ryan Reaves, if you ask me, setting the tone with that nature. But if the puck's not going in the net, you got to do everything else to a T to make sure you're doing everything you can while that slump is happening. And you're seeing flashes of it, but inconsistency is still a big issue so far with this group.
There's 2 prime reasons, Rosie, why I don't feel like some people do right now, where it's like, what the hell is going on with these guys through 13 games? The first is the blue line. Like it is night and day this year to last in terms of moving the puck. They're actually moving the puck. Like it's not stuck in mud in the D zone, which is great. I think the additions have been great, and that makes me feel positive and good about this team. And the second is the crease. I still believe beyond belief in a Joseph Wall, but Anthony Stolarz I thought was exceptional again against Minnesota, and just made me wonder like where the hell this team would be without this guy so far.
Totally. I mean, there's some games there where they're not playing well enough to win alone. Obviously, not the power play is not winning you games. Your explosive offense isn't winning you games, and they're doing the other things right and keeping them in it at least. Like I said, if they didn't show up their D this year and they didn't have a goalie or just didn't have Anthony Stolarz right now, this could be a sky is falling mentality where they're the talk of the entire league being basement dwellers. But thankfully, they've shored up that stuff, and that's what gives me. That's why I'm not hitting the panic button and saying everyone relax. They are getting used to a new system. Fine. If you want to blame that, go right ahead. It's certainly not the reason. The system's not taking away from their offense. Maybe them getting used to the system is making their offense get a bit discombobulated right now. Whatever the case is, the system is not the problem. And let's be pleased that we have Anthony Stolarz back there, who's proving to be very capable. Limelight doesn't bother him. He can play and step in. He seems calm. He seems poised. He seems confident. And we haven't even talked about Joseph Wall, who we know has all those things. Hasn't been the perfect start for him. But if this offense gets figured out and they start to play with a bit of consistency, the tough pieces to put together are already in place. So keep that in mind. Once this slump is over with the offense and they start playing at a regular clip, which this group should be playing at a very high end clip by NHL standards, the thing's going to look pretty good. So all the people that are freaking out right now, it's not going to take a whole lot for this ship to get back on course. And when it does, the tough stuff's taken care of right now. And I think you got to remember that and be positive, even though the results aren't there. Then the problem is just consistency, getting them to show up on time, showing up on time, playing 60 minutes, not taking a period off. And honestly, it's very visible that when they get away from that system, it starts to blow up in their face, and that's when they start to struggle. You don't gain the red line and then go back south over the red line dicking around. It's just a recipe for odd man rushes. You don't gain the blue line and then do a drop pass to someone you kind of hope and figure might be there. That's a recipe for disaster. You want to look at someone who's implemented this in the best possible way, Matthew Nyes. This guy has taken it and run with it, and he is working his bag off. He is forechecking, he is hitting, he is turning over pucks, he's getting it deep, he's getting ozone time. He looks like an absolute beast out there. That's the format. Does Austin Matthews have to play that way? No, everyone's got different levels to it, but that's what Craig Berube wants to see, because over the course of a 7-game series or 82 games season, that stuff is going to add up, and it's going to wind up in more consistent play and more wins. Yeah, they're having some growing pains with it, but that's the formula, and you can see it when they're playing well. And if they can access it more often than not, and once this slump is over, I still have a lot of hope that this group can be pretty deadly.
Pretty simple game. Having said that, for some reason, this team just stinks in OT. Like, that was so Leafy the way they lost that game, where it went from almost a 3-on-0. I think it was Brock Faber shot it up the middle. I don't know what the hell they were doing. They got a 2-on-0, and that was like, it was just so Leafy how they lost that game, where it's like they barely touched the puck. All of OT was all Minnesota, and then they give it away. I don't know. Like, I felt like I was watching the NHL video game where you put the puck ahead of you, but he put it too far ahead. Did Domi?
I know he kind of like sprung it off like past the red line. I was like, whoa! I know he just wanted to get it ahead of him and get some speed going, but I think some bad luck there. He's got a guy he didn't realize is much fresher than him who could get to that puck first. Who was it that went for a change? Was it Austin? And
One of
then
those guys, yeah, and it was
Pacioretty
weird.
thinks the guy on the far side wall is the obvious guy to receive that quick puck, and he goes right to them. Kind of a calamity of errors. It's compounded by Austin's bonehead play by just winging it, thinking the guy is standing right there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, that no look stuff, that's just not there right now. On the power play, there was times where they could no look backhand it back to Austin, bang, nobody knows it's coming but Austin. And now none of that is there. And I think these guys have a little bit of a habit of, okay, I got to fancy it up to force a play here. And that has blown up in their face many times over the years. It is simplify it. I think they are buying into the right sentiment of getting pucks to the net, being simple with it, but the overtime's not good. It's when you watch, I mean, when it first came out, it was the Wild West. No systems, no one knew what to do. 2-on-0 followed by 3-on-1 followed by breakaway. It was just wild, and teams have shored that up, but as you see, with that much ice and all the offensive minded guys and it being next goal wins, things like that tend to happen, and it seems to be on the wrong side of the Maple Leafs more often than not, no doubt. And you'd like to see those offensive skilled players making all the money come through a little more often than they do when it's 3-on-3.
JS writes in OEL change. It was Oliver Ekman-Larsson who went for the change. But the thing that just rattles my cage, they are so talented. This team should not be losing in 3-on-3. Like, you would think this would be good for what they put together, having the time and space on the ice. But the statistics speak for themselves. I think they're 8-12 in the last 20 OT games. Like, it just does not make sense, Rosie, when you have that much star power on the ice.
I know that should be their bread and butter. It should be their
Sure.
wheelhouse. I don't know if they're kind of a little bit lackadaisical with it. Like, sometimes you're oozing talent. You get the Nylanders out there and Mitchie up there with the mohawk skating and ooh, whoopee, 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 gonna do something super fancy. I think maybe they overdo it a little bit. And
Yeah.
you have skill, but you have skill to finish that play. You got to make the play first, and it's got to be the right play. And I think maybe they think that it's going to be a little bit too much of a fancy street hockey type of setup, and that seems to, the other teams are National Hockey League worthy teams, and if you give them that little bit of an inch, especially with all that room out there on offense, it's going the other way in a hurry, and you better have kind of a two-way mind and a two-way kind of mind put on, with offense being mixed in with defense right there. You can't just try to make the highlight reel goal, because as soon as it doesn't work out, and they don't all work out, it's going the other way in a hurry, and they just keep getting bit by that. It's mental mistakes for me on the overtime setup.
Hey, they scored a power play goal, Rosie. Why don't we give them a round of applause on today's podcast? 4 for 40 on the season. It's a one-timer. Nylander it's always Nylander who scores the goal when they just need it, man. It's just always the same guy. But regardless of that, like this is it's starting to they're starting to lose games because their power play can't score. Like it's an absolute joke. And I don't know where they go from here. They scored a goal. They've tried everything. I was laughing over the weekend that at least this experiment of flipping the two units lasted longer than Nylander at center twice now, by the way. But now we're getting a new wrinkle, a 5-forward set where there's PP1 QB Mitch Marner, who undoubtedly is going to use that in negotiations coming up.
Well, it's the core four plus William or plus Matthew Nyes on the peeper now. Hey, which, hey, you try anything, I'm all for it right now. When it's that
Sure.
bad, you can do anything to get yourself out of it. It worked. I don't mind the look all that much. I don't think this is the permanent full time thing we're going to see all year long. Do I love Mitchie being up at the top of the point, kind of QB in that thing? Doing the old shoulder shake thing. Yeah, it's all right. I don't think it's a permanent thing, but throw anything against put 5D out there for all I care when you're struggling this bad and see what you can come up with. But it did work. They managed to open up a seam enough to get it through. They made the play and the guy finished it. It's as simple as that. These guys are good at that. They've done a lot of it and they're just not doing it right now. So anytime you get a little bit of success, great. I imagine we'll probably see that again. But as you can tell, it is kind of a short leash. They're throwing everything against the wall. Nothing's for free right now with these guys, and Craig's going to keep trying to mix it up until the levee breaks.
It's not going to work. I'll tell you right now, the 5-forward set is not going to work. I guarantee in the next 2 games they're going to get a shorthanded goal against. It just who's dude like who like so the fortunate thing for them yesterday is Minnesota didn't come back the other way. I think it's important to stress the Wild coming into the game. I think 27th on the PK in the NHL. Like they weren't playing one of the best PKs in the league. It's going to take one team. Maybe it's Boston on Tuesday. Maybe it's Detroit. Maybe it's Montreal to come the other way. Who is playing defense? Like who is defensive minded of those 5 guys skating backwards is my question.
Well, I was gonna say when it worked, I was gonna say, okay, just wait until there's some breakaways and some odd man rushes on this thing, and people will change their tune pretty quick. Again, I don't think this is a permanent solution to their power play problems, but when you cannot score and it's been consistent for the whole year, and your numbers and percentages are that abysmal, I don't mind trying anything. And if you want to put those 5 forwards out there, go ahead. You tell them, hey, just so you know, there's 5 forwards out there. Someone needs to kind of pay attention and watch those little 50-50 pucks and make sure that there's no odd man rushes or anything against, which this team has done before. But sometimes I remember there's a point in time there in the past where we would rather just like negate a power play. No thanks. Like, they're getting scored on more than they're scoring. But it's just, again, I just keep coming back to what a Leafy problem that this group has shored up their goaltending and their D and are moving it as well as ever and have a new system in place that's probably conducive to a more winning playoff style formula. And this group can't score a bloody goal. It's just par for the course, man. And again, it's the sample size is short. And remember when you were back in the summer, I'm pretty sure most people would agree, hey, if this takes a little while to get rolling and for them to get figuring it out, let's not freak out during that process. And here we are right in the thick of it. Again, I'd rather have this problem with this group than the latter, and I think they're going to pull out of it, and we're going to have sunnier days ahead.
I like the PK this weekend. I think that's not being spoken about enough as a job Lane Lambert, who I believe is running the PK, has done. I think the Leafs hovering around 86%. They were 7 for 7 over the weekend. And I think they're in a really good place. Like there's noticeable improvements from last year. Now, if they can just find a way to like even things out, average things out with the power play and the PK, I think they would be in a good spot. I honestly feel that translates to a couple victories at the very least.
Oh yeah, if their power play was running at, I don't know, give them a few more percentage
Even
points.
15%.
Yeah, exactly. It
You know?
would change. It would be a difference maker. Oftentimes, you look at in the new NHL, you look at the stat lines, and the deadly power play is oftentimes the deciding factor in the 2 points and in the games and in the wins and the losses. And again, it's a good thing they have their D and everything shored up. But yeah, you can talk about that in a positive way. I don't know if it's Tanev or OEL or just a system or a new commitment or what, but like remember those just gross turnovers and odd man rushes and scrambling, and people are sliding at shit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what kind of hockey are we playing here? That's gone away, man. They look thick, they look solid. The lanes and the holes and the options are taken away. Their sticks are in the lanes, their bodies are in the right positions. They're not giving up a whole lot. A really wicked sign for, you're trying to look at positives right now. I know their record could be better, no question, but I think it will be. I think it will be
Mhm.
better. I think the important stuff that fans are crying about in the last couple of years, I think they've honestly done a wicked job of shoring that stuff up, and you can see it, but it's just not translating to the wins right now because of the offensive slump they're in. It's this just cannot continue. It will not continue. I want to give them 3 more weeks and say, okay, now that that slump is gone, they're going to break out. Let's see how this team can put it together when they are defending well, when they do have offensive power, when they do have a system that's conducive to not giving up a whole lot, and everyone's committed. Let's get there first. It's 13 games, guys. Let's relax a little bit. This slump is not going to last forever, and the important stuff has been pretty solid.
Tell you, Tanev and Ekman Larson, man, those guys are hockey players. I just think it's night and day, that blue line. And I feel really, really confident and comfortable with the blue line and the crease right now for this Maple Leafs team. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Right now, I advise Nick Robertson fans to tune out if you need to look away. We have to have this conversation. Okay, Rosie. 11 games, he has 1 goal, and Nick Robertson is supposed to be a goal scorer. I just think we're at the end of this road where it's just time for a change of scenery. Felt the same way about Timothy Liljegren. I feel the same way about Nick Robertson. Furthermore, to that point, I watched the games, and Robertson sticks out for the wrong reasons where I just don't think he fits with what they're trying to do here physical wise. Like he's not even getting opportunities or chances or shots on goal. Like I just feel like he's a guy that is withering away and doesn't have a role with this team right now. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, he's just not very noticeable right now. He's not being effective in any way. And when you're a pure goal scorer and you're not even creating chances to score goals, it's not a great look. When that's, you got to keep in mind everyone is kind of struggling right now. Everyone's pretty dry on the offensive side of things. You could say that's an opportunity for him to step up and be the guy that says, hey, I can do some things here too, and I can carry us along. Hasn't even been close to that. Again, his consistency has always been the question mark, and there's been pieces of time where it's like, man, that's a good hockey player. Man, he's dynamic. Man, he can finish. He's got the right stuff. But you see it so seldomly now, and it's just few and far between when he gives you that flash. It's becoming apparent that it's not worth a roster spot for what you get out of him. I mean, it's not like there's multi layers where he's blocking shots and chasing down pucks and being physical and killing penalties. And it's just he has kind of one thing, and that's making plays and scoring goals, and it's not there at all. You want to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt because the whole team is struggling, but it's kind of miles away. If he was getting chance after chance and it's just not going in, you could say, hey, he's snake bit and let him cook, but he's not even creating opportunities, which is a big red flag. And I just think that position between him and Holmberg and Dewars coming back, like someone's got to step up and be the guy to say, hey, raise your hand. I'm the Toronto Maple Leaf. That's my spot. And I'm here to be here for the long haul. And you need a guy like me. And I just want something solid. It's totally wavering. It's, let's try him. Oh, who's in tonight? Oh, Holmberg's out. Oh, and it's Bobby. And it's just kind of, it would be nice. That's where they're showing a little bit of lack of depth is at that position where can I just get one of those depth pieces, third line kind of guy to just be rock solid and be the guy that can step in and sit there for the rest of the season, because they don't seem to have anybody. I wish it was Nick. He's too inconsistent.
There just seems to be a bizarre attachment between Dubasites and Nick Robertson. Like the guy's going to be 37 years old, and people are like, he can score, he can shoot. It's like, am I watching a different hockey club or a different team where it's like I watch Nick Robertson? Yeah, he scores goals, but like I don't think he fits with this roster, specifically if they're not going to play him in the top 6. He doesn't have a role. He's not a physical player. There's a couple moments in that game against Minnesota after being a healthy scratch on Saturday where he just knocked off the puck. I mean, it's pretty easy to disconnect a player from the puck, and it just I just don't think he's a fit with this team, and that's okay. There's a lot of people in this market who don't want to let go of the player because of a fear that he's going to somehow go off and score 45 goals. Like What are we doing here, Rosie, is my question.
Who cares what people do when they leave the Toronto Maple
I
Leafs?
know.
Like it's only matters what they do when they're here. What are they doing for you? If they go into some other system that wants them and they didn't like the pressure of Toronto and they go and have a flourishing season in Columbus, who cares? It didn't work here. That's the only thing you know. That's the only thing that matters. And it's becoming a pretty consistent theme that Nick Robertson isn't performing here. Giving him the benefit of the doubt in training camp and in preseason and throughout the season, he's had a fair bit of looks and not one redeeming thing to show for it. Like I can't even remember like a big time chance that almost went in, or the goalie made a big save, or he hit the post, or nothing. Like I just don't notice him out there, and I'm sorry, but for that role with your skill set, you got to be doing more, and you got to get someone in there that's going to be more conducive to the system, that's going to be just flat out more effective.
Man, he scored 1 goal. It came in garbage time against Columbus, wasn't it? Like, I don't know. And I was trying really hard the last year to make this fit and to believe in this player in this market with this team. But now specifically with Craig Berube, I don't see it. Maybe with Sheldon Keefe's team and the way he wanted to run things, but I just don't. Again, if you're not going to try him in the top 6, then a bottom 6 look is not going to be the right play for Robertson. And I think ultimately there's going to be a decision that's made in the next couple weeks when Dewar's back in the mix. I saw he scored for the Marlies on Friday. Once Yarncroke is back, like they're ultimately going to have to make a decision. And I do feel like this is trending towards a decision where they got to trade this guy.
Well, I'm telling you, I guarantee you they've had conversations and Tree Living has knocked on doors. Is anyone interested? And I mean, everyone just expects, oh, just trade him to someone. Trade him to who? Who wants him? Who's willing to give up something for him? I just, they've had opportunity to trade them. It's been the conversation piece for quite some time now. It's not easy to put it in. It was nice they got a deal done with Liljegren, and I was kind of surprised that it did. But good for Tree Living. But I promise you that he's having those conversations about Nick Robertson as well, and nothing's come to fruition yet. Could that happen today when we get off the show? Yes. I just foresee this guy being on waivers and being down in the Marlies
Yes.
again.
Yep.
And, that's going to happen when Yarncroke is back. When is that happening, by the way? Dewar's coming back. I think there's other pieces where, hey, you've had your shot. You've had 15 games to do something. You haven't done anything. We asked you if you wanted to like be a Toronto Maple Leaf, if you wanted to be effective. Of course, he's trying. He's probably frustrated, but you're too inconsistent to warrant this position. And if it is in the bottom 6, this team's new identity is going towards things that you do not excel at. So I'm sorry, the writing's on the wall for him. I think he's going to end up on waivers and be down on the Marlies here in the next couple of weeks.
I was going to ask you, I mean, do you feel comfortable with putting him on waivers? I do. I mean, it's sort of weird, but it reminds me of Alex Nylander early in his career. Like teams didn't want to give up on the guy because he was Alex Nylander. Leafs fans don't want to give up because Nick Robertson and the whole smoke and allure of this guy coming up and what a season he had in the OHL, then cracks the Leafs and, he's trying hard and he's got a great shot and he scores some goals. But at some point in time, you're like, this is not working. And I think you make a great point. They've clearly tried to trade this guy for the last 6 months and there's no takers. So you just move on. I'm sorry. You got to rip the Band-Aid off sometimes.
Yeah, people go on waivers a lot. It's relatively rare they get claimed. I don't think that that's a huge worry, and you're going to be forced with that option here sooner than later. There's going to be guys, team's not doing well. It's a ring around the rosy with certain players and giving them chances and pulling them out. No one seems to be, taking the job and forcing anyone's hand. When these guys come back, this team's going to be dying for a different look, for different blood, for different energy. There's just not going to be a place on the roster anymore. And you can't say they didn't give him a contract, give him a chance, give him some time, give him opportunity. It's just the same old. He's not doing enough to warrant a spot. And I'm sorry, he's not the first guy to have a light up season in the Ontario Hockey League or in Major Junior and then not quite being able to get it done at the same click in the NHL. It's a very difficult jump. It's a very difficult league. And again, you can't say that they haven't given the guy opportunity. He just hasn't seized any of the opportunity and solidified himself in the lineup. I just foresee him being on waivers. And if he goes out of the Marlies and starts lighting it up and gets a chance in January and comes up, maybe it'll be a different story. I don't know. Those things do happen. But right now, he's not really on my radar as any kind of a piece of this team.
Having said that, when Nick Robertson does in fact make his return to Scotiabank Arena in another jersey, I'm hitting that anytime goal because he's going to score. After the video tribute, by the way, where people are going to cry. There's going to be people in that building who are crying because they miss Nick Robertson.
There's that hasn't happened in recent memory, has it? It's happened a lot, but I can't pick anything out recently. We'll see, man. I don't know. I don't really care. He's just not a big enough piece of the puzzle to be worrying about. You've given him the shot. It's just you need someone. I don't know if it's going to come via trade or deadline or what, but I would like someone who is more effective in an NHL hockey game than Nick Robertson has shown he can be on, even close to a consistent level.
I like this. Yeet Hey, Nick's eyebrows growing into his brain. Thank you for that. He's a big Robertson guy, by the way. He's been
Ask
spewing
him
his
why.
love.
What do you like about him? What is he? Why are you such a fan?
Dude,
What does
I
he
got to write
do?
a
What do you
thesis
like so much
paper on
about his game? What does he do? He's got one goal. What does he do away from the goal scoring that's really good? Sometimes his
Yeah.
effort is there. Sometimes I like the way he moves his feet and stuff, but it just doesn't create anything in my mind. I just, for the Robertson fans, is it a personal thing? Do you just like him as a person, or do you like the way he looks, or do you like that he's his brother's Jason? I don't really know what is what's the fascination here. I don't really. How
Look,
can you defend a guy that's done zero?
there's certain guys, the calculator community, on Saturday nights they get together, they turn the lights off and just sit in the dark together, and
I guess
they
the
pay homage
calculator.
to
Well, I'd
these
like to
guys.
see those calculations on what they add up to, but because I'm an eye test guy and I can't see anything with the eye test, so please put in the chat what what it is that give me some examples on why you have a strong opinion about keeping Nick Robertson. Just let me hear it because I can't see it. Simple as that.
Somebody had an answer, and thank you to producer Vic for vetting the chat. Somebody said Nate McKinnon needed 4 years. We're now comparing Nick Robertson to Nate McKinnon.
Yeah,
These people still drunk from Halloween or what? What's going on with this chat today? I wanted to get to the root of this problem, like why people believe in Nick Robertson. Like, what has he done in his NHL career to tell you, oh my God, this guy's a future Hall of Famer? He's scoring 30 tucks a year. I have not seen one thing to suggest that yet.
I think hope. People hold on to hope, right? And then the
Perfect.
admission.
You're
The
a fan of this
admission.
team. You're
Good
always
morning.
hoping, right?
Huh?
You're a fan of this team. You're always hoping. That's what this team does. They hope.
Oh yeah, that's all there is hope, and you hope a young guy that comes from within that has flashes of being able to do certain things. But I mean, I remember guys getting called up from the minors all the time, and they'll have their moment where they have that go ahead goal with 6 minutes left in the third, and it was pretty, and oh he can do it, but it's just like you can't pull one of those off every 25 to 30 games, guys. You have to do it at a better clip. And Robertson, while he has skill, and you could put together a little mini highlight reel of him doing neat things, but that's over the span of like 2 years, man. It's just there's not enough juice there to justify the position, if you ask me. And so far, they don't have a much better suitor in mind, so he keeps getting chances. And I mean, that's for him. He can't get mad. He can't be pissed off. He's got an opportunity, and he just again it's just very clear the consistency at this level in this league is not there for him yet. Again, if he goes down to the Marlies and comes back in January and finds something different, I mean, things like that happen, but there's no sign of it so far.
It's cult shit, man. I'm not kidding. It's cult shit. Tom Biscardi, I like this one. Hope, cope, rinse, repeat. We should make shirts with that on it because it's just hope. We just hope all the time. Like I think maybe it's the market, but every time there's a prospect, and I feel bad for Easton Cowan because it started in the summer. Cowan's going to be this guy, this offensive domino in the top six and dynamo, I should say. Like it seems like every prospect that comes up in Toronto, maybe we do it to ourselves. We glorify the guy and think he's a second coming, man. I just don't think Nick Robertson is that guy. I don't understand this love for Nick Robertson. Like we've seen a sample size large enough to tell you that maybe he's in time for a change of scenery.
Well, there's lots of players that are really, really, really good in the American Hockey League, and they just can't do it. Like they need to be
True.
the guy, they need to be the first unit, they need to start every period and every game, they need to be put in every offensive zone face-off. They need all of the looks in order to be decent, and they get called up to the NHL and they play on the third line and they don't get any of those looks and they're absolutely useless in the league. It's not the first time this has happened, and Nick Robertson is starting to appear to have that reputation of like, yeah, you'll put him on the Marlies and he'll be among the top scorers there and he's really good at hockey. It's just, I'm sorry, like I didn't do it. You haven't produced at this level. It's as simple as that. Like your numbers aren't good enough. And that when you're a numbers guy, that's all that bloody matters. And it's just the way it is. I think that, you talk about hope, rinse, hope, cope, and repeat. Yeah, but right now, when the hope, I think that there's reason to be more hopeful now because all those things that just completely let you down with a team that just gets exposed down the stretch, the goaltending and the defense, like that's there. And we just have to solve this offensive problem because the people that watch know that the playoffs is where they just lose 2-1, and
Yeah.
fuck, I don't know what else you can do to start. We're gonna have to have the personnel conversations if this continues, but it's been a theme lately that these guys, and it is the big boys, they're just not scoring when they need to. They're not doing their job when they need to. And it's not that they don't do their job on paper. They all put up 100 points. It's great. But when you need to, that's the big piece of the puzzle, man. I'm not ready to go there yet, but all signs are pointing to one thing, and it's the personnel on this team. And I don't want to even attempt to hear about Craig Berube being the problem because that is just way too early for that shit.
Oh, trust me, I was doing a 35, 40-minute drive from Oakville to Toronto last night thinking about segment ideas, and it did cross my mind, like, is it time for a seismic trade? That segment's coming at some point in time here. We all know who we're alluding to as well. I liked a couple of these, and then we'll wrap. Coda Red, Robertson is Jeremy Bracco 2.0, which I like that. I'm still waiting for Chris DiDomenico. Remember that name? There's just these guys as attachment. Jerry D'Amigo is another guy. Like, there's just so many. Did you play with Jerry D'Amigo?
This is like my era, dude. I
Yeah.
played with lots of those guys. Oh, I should think of some other guys, man. Fuck, those are hilarious hearing those names. But
I understand what people are saying. There's been so many different Leafs prospects where it's like you've been told this guy's the next coming, and then he shows up, and it's like, you're so right. Like maybe Nick Robertson's a guy who's a fringe guy. I've got a bunch of buddies, dude, who are really sick in the AHL, couldn't hack it in the NHL. Not for a lack of trying, just sometimes you don't have what it takes.
And it's especially for those goal scorer guys. It is like so many times, and they would argue that, oh, I got called up for the American League. I'm on fire. I got player of the week, player of the month in the American League. I'm leading my team. I get called up. I get put on the third line or the fourth line. I get 7 minutes, and it's in garbage time, and they're completely irrelevant to the game. And it's like, yeah, that's not necessarily a recipe for success, but I'm sorry, you're not getting called up to do William Nylander's job. You're just not. So if you don't have the tools in your toolbox to be effective in other ways, there's guys that block shots. There's guys that'll go up and fight. There's guys that'll hit like crazy, forecheck like mothers, do all the right things, play the North style hockey, kill a penalty. And if you don't do any of that and you're just like, I want to be on the power play and I want to score goals, you don't have a hope in hell in the NHL if you can't do anything else, especially if you're not getting those minutes. And it's not the first time I've heard this story. There's a million guys that are like that, and Nick's starting to become one of those guys because he does get shots, he does get the looks, and there's still nothing there. So, yeah, I'm not attached to Nick Robertson. My heart's not going to be broken. He had or has potential, and it's starting to become had potential. That conversation and that word when you're talking about that individual player is definitely creeping into the vocabulary.
Robbie Vargas, Tyler Biggs, great playback name there as well. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. Just 2 games, one of which is the game on Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's New Jersey and the Edmonton Oilers. No Connor McDavid. It's a back-to-back after the Battle of Alberta. I'm going to take the Devils' money line in that game at Edmonton tonight.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, Cripes, Edmonton, man. I'm gonna take I'm just gonna stay hot on Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Give him anytime goal. He's stepped up to the plate massively since Connor went down, and he's just an elite hockey player. So I think your money is relatively safe betting on that fella.
I sprinkled a bit of Leon for Hart last night. I don't know if it's going to hit. I don't think McDavid's going to miss enough time, but he is really raised his play in the 2 games since Connor McDavid went down. 3 goals, 3 assists for Leon Draisaitl. So a couple games coming up in the NHL. The Leafs kicking off a 4-game homestand coming up on Tuesday when they host the big bad Boston Bruins, coming off back-to-back shutout victories over the weekend. And David Pastrnak, by the way, was benched for the entire third period. So he's going to be a bit fired up at Scotiabank Green on Tuesday night, Rosie.
There's not a lot of things that are lining up positively for the Toronto Maple Leafs with this one, is it? Oh, just about every they're absolutely on fire, but their stud, who basically just got a cage rattling. They're so offensive that they've lost to them already. They have their number for the last decade. It's not lining up, but these Leafs are the Leafs and they do leafy things. Maybe it is the game where they absolutely bust out and just have an offensive outpouring. It would be nothing better than to do it against the Boston Bruins, but I'm glad I'm not in charge of the ship, because at what point do you, like, what else do you what do you say to the guys? What, just keep going, keep at it, stick with it, keep it simple, move your feet, work hard, outwork the puck, and the chances will come. That's all you can say at this point, and it's not very motivating, and it's not written in stone by any stretch. But again, there's nothing left to do but try and play your way out of this offensive slump. And again, at least the other stuff's kind of taken care of. I'd like to see what Joel Woll can do, if he can really have a, like, can he steal a game? That's what I think Joseph Woll needs. Can he steal a game where the crowd's just basically standing owing for this goalie because he's frustrating the other team? Like, he needs one of those. But the problems obviously are on the offensive side of the puck, and it's just not really acceptable for this group, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not quite at hyper levels of frustration yet.
Me either. I'll call it a win. It's November 4th, and they haven't given Marner or Tavares extensions. So, again, we'll feel positive about that, because, again, I ain't running it back with these guys if they're showing the same bullshit in the first 13 games of the season. But anyways, a lot of racetrack left in this season. I think it's going to take time. I like your phrase, growing pains, as well. So, Rosie, we'll leave it at that. We'll talk tomorrow, buddy.
See you there, man.
The one and only Jay Rosehill. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You were on tilt today. You were fantastic. A lot of great conversations at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Many thanks to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Tuesday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.